Welcome back to Two Pretty Good Bad Men, an Alias Smith & Jones podcast. I'm your Huckleberry Tabitha, and today we are covering Season 2, Episode 20, Which Way to the OK Corral? This episode was shot mid-January 1972, and it aired February 10th, 1972. The story was by Roy Huggins, and the teleplay was by Glenn A. Larson. It was directed by Jack Arnold. Arnold had previously directed the episode Something to Get Hung About, and he will go on to direct 3 more episodes in Season 3. We have some returning guest stars this week. Neville Brand is back again. This time he's playing a man named Sam Bacon. We also have Burl Ives returning for what amounts to a cameo. For our newcomers, we have Michelle Lee as Georgette Sinclair. Lee is probably most famous for starring in Knots Landing, the spin-off of Dallas. She was born the daughter of Hollywood makeup artist Jack Dusick. She started acting when she was very young. She landed her first Broadway role before she even graduated high school. She played the lead in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, a show which she was able to take to the silver screen, and she signed a record deal with Columbia Records. She starred in movies like The Comic and The Love Bug. She was in the TV movie remake Dark Victory with Elizabeth Montgomery and Anthony Hopkins, which I had no idea they had remade into a TV movie, and I would kind of like to see it now. She continued to work after Knots Landing, but focused a lot on producing and directing then. She made the TV movie Color Me Perfect and Big Dreams, Broken Hearts, The Dottie West Story, and a movie that I must check out, Scandalous Me, The Jacqueline Suzanne Story. As of this recording, Lee is still alive. Next, we have my man Cameron Mitchell as Wyatt Earp. I mainly know Mitchell as Buck Cannon from The High Chaparral, which is one of my favorite Western shows. He and Henry Darrow stole that entire series right out from under Leif Erikson. No offense. But sadly, I also know him from the episode of MST3K Space Mutiny. Great episode, terrible movie. Yeah, he ended up in a lot of schlocky movies, poor guy, including a porno which he apparently didn't know was a porno until after he had shot his scenes. Yeah, he wasn't one of the, the naked people. But he did end up in The Other Side of the Wind. Remember that unfinished Orson Welles movie that finally got finished and released on Netflix a couple of years ago? Like a lot of actors who passed through our little show, Mitchell served in the military as an Air Force bombardier. When he got out, he turned to acting. He made his film debut in the movie What Next, Corporal Hargrove, a movie we've talked about before. He was in My Favorite Year, which is charming. He was in Carousel, a musical all about how abuse is okay, actually. You guys, if you want to watch Gordon McRae and Shirley Jones in a musical together, just watch Oklahoma instead, please. He also originated the role of Happy Loman in Death of a Salesman on Broadway and the film version. That's significant. He was in a televised version of the play The Anderson Trial. I believe that was the same program that Pete Duell made the Scarecrow with. He did guest star work on all the shows. Seriously, this man worked like mad and yet still found time to have 5 children. He was on The Untouchables, Wagon Train, The FBI, Macmillan and Wife, Police Story, The Fall Guy, Charlie's Angels, and Knight Rider. He passed away from lung cancer in 1994 at age 75. Next up is Bill Fletcher as Doc Holliday. Fletcher has already been in 3 episodes of ASJ, including the pilot, and he will go on to do 1 more next season, also playing Doc Holliday. I love how Fletcher was around 50 when he made this episode, and Doc Holliday died when he was 36. And the episode clearly goes out of its way to make him look even older. Sick does not equal old, you guys. And finally, we have John Russell as Bart Russell. No relation. Russell will go on to play Lom Travers in Season 3. Anyway, I may or may not mix him up with Gilligan's Island's Russell Johnson, but that's hardly my fault. Russell served in the military. He was in the Marine Corps in World War II. After he was given a medical discharge, he was spotted by a talent scout and a career was born. He often played supporting characters or heavies, until 1958 when he scored the lead in the series Lawman, which ran for 4 seasons. He also guest starred on Maverick, 77 Sunset Strip, It Takes a Thief, Emergency, and The Fall Guy. Russell passed away in 1991 at age 70. No Maverick connection this week, but it is a reworking of an episode of The Virginian called The Exiles. The basic plot is the same, but I don't think Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday were a part of it. Let's get into it. No sneak peek, thank goodness. We start out with a man named Diego riding onto the McCready Ranch. Another man, Sam Bacon, hears a gunshot and looks to see Diego fallen from his horse. Big Mac rides up to check on Diego, noting that he's hurt badly. He rides off for a wagon and a doctor. Bacon sneaks over to the fallen man, takes his shotgun and wallet, and rides off. And credits. Take it away, Ralph's story. We see the boys tracking Sam Bacon down. The man they're questioning lets them know that he was in town and bought a ticket to Tombstone. Kid does not want to go to Tombstone because famous Wyatt Earp is the marshal there. Yeah, this isn't exactly accurate to the real Wyatt Earp's life, but once we've reached Winona Earp levels of playing with historical fiction, does it really matter anymore? Hayes assures Kid that it's gonna be fine. Wyatt Earp doesn't know them after all. They board the stage, and who should already be on it but an old friend of theirs, Georgette Sinclair. And my God, she is stunning. Like, she is so pretty, I can hardly look away from her. So the thing is, this character was supposed to be Clementine Hale, Sally Field's character. She was written into 3 episodes very close together, and they were all going to be filmed back to back, although aired slightly out of order. And Field was unavailable to film for that long a time. She will be back, though. I do have to say, part of me wonders if maybe she didn't want to go back and guest star on her recently deceased friend's show. I mean, I probably wouldn't. Anyway, much like how Huggins never differentiated between Brett and Bart Maverick in his Maverick scripts, he wrote Georgette exactly as he did Clementine. Literally, he just scratched out the name Clementine and inserted the name Georgette, and he kept all the dialogue exactly the same. The interpretation of the actors was enough difference for him. The book points out that a lot of fans were turned off by Clementine due to her blackmailing the boys with that photo of them. Yet they loved George, even though they are effectively the same character. And I have to admit, in my case, that is true. I love George. I tolerate Clementine, mostly because she's Sally Field, and Sally Field is great. It's so interesting to me how different actors can make 2 different characters using the exact same dialogue. Related to that point, this will be the first episode where Roger was free to play Hayes the way he wanted to. Cameron Mitchell gets the special guest star credit this week, as he deserves. Anyway, on the train, George is telling the boys that she's going to Tombstone to work at the Birdcage Saloon. And they're like, "A saloon, girl? But you're not a filthy gutter slut." As they ride along, she gets the feeling that they're not jazzed about going to the same town with her. She asks if they're so nervous about the situation, then why are they even going to Wyatt's town? It was actually Virgil Earp who was the marshal in Tombstone, just FYI. I know I said it doesn't matter, but just saying. They say the man killed on Big Mac's property was Armendariz' foreman, so he's on the hook for murder. He's paying them to track down the real killer. They tell her that they're going to need her to kind of just ignore them and pretend she doesn't know them when they get to Tombstone. And she's very offended by this. They arrive in town and she goes her way and they go theirs. George heads to the birdcage and introduces herself to the owner. He said sorry, but they've got enough girls. She says she has an audition lined up and insists she be allowed to try. He finally agrees to let her audition later that night. The guys continue to search for Sam Bacon for the next couple of days. They're really bad at this. Kid's getting annoyed, but Hayes says they should be glad that at least they haven't run into Wyatt Earp yet. And then, womp womp, there he is. The man, the myth, the legend. He just greets them very casually and walks away. Back in the hotel, Kid is like, "Let's get the hell out of here right now. I'm talking there's about to be a Kid Curry-shaped hole in the wall." Before Hayes can calm him down, there's a knock at the door. They're both on their guard as they answer. It's George. She throws herself into Hayes' arms, very upset. She said a man has threatened her and told her to leave Tombstone. He had a deputy marshal badge on, so she let him into her room. He said she had to be on the 3 o'clock stage the next day or she'd be killed. And the boys are like, well, you should definitely go report that. And she's like, well, you 2 are coming with me. And reluctantly they go. They get to the marshal's office and George tells Wyatt her story. Mitchell's version of Wyatt is so laid back he's almost asleep. Interesting choice. The boys spy their wanted posters on the wall and they would like to leave now. Wyatt tells his deputy to go round up all the other deputies to see if George can identify the man who threatened her. He asks the boys if they're friends of hers, and they're like, nope, just met her on the stage. Poor George. He then asks George why a man would threaten her. She said he never said. Boy, he is just not buying a single word of her story. What, just 'cause she's a woman? Just then, the man who threatened her, Bart, comes in. She identifies him, but he's like, never seen her before in my life. And that's good enough for this Wyatt Earp. He tells him to go home. Before he leaves, Bart says, "Hey, there is no 3 o'clock stage." Wyatt says that he knows that. Oh my god! This Bart guy was like pre-gaslighting her. Wyatt asks why Hayes and Curry are in town. They tell him they're bounty hunters looking for a suspected killer. They have a subpoena with them, but it's for Texas and isn't any good in Arizona. Wyatt says he doesn't like bounty hunters, but he won't get in their way so long as they keep a low profile. The boys are more than happy to agree, but George is pissed to be dismissed like she's been. Then they have the nerve to get annoyed at her for getting Wyatt Earp's eyes on them. Boys, her life was threatened, you assholes! Kid suggests she does just as she was told and leave town, but she doesn't want to leave. She wants that job at the birdcage. She says that they'll just have to protect her. That evening, Hayes is engaged in a poker game as usual. He's on quite the hot streak too. He's carrying on a conversation with a man who he is shocked to find out is Doc Holliday. And again, why did they make him up to look so old? He's definitely got the at death's door thing happening, but he wasn't an old man. He was in fact a young man. Most actors I've seen play Doc just do the occasional cough to signify his impending death. Bill Fletcher really looks like if he tries to get out of the chair he's sitting in, he will keel over. I digress. The game has drawn quite a crowd, including the kid. Hayes wins again, and he's won quite a lot. The game takes a break, and Kid goes over to Hayes, reminding him that they're there for a reason, and that reason is not gambling. Then Hayes insults Doc Holliday's gambling skills, which I resent. A lot about Doc has been exaggerated over time, mostly his skill with a gun and his reputation as a killer. He was hardly the fastest or most accurate gunman around, and he didn't kill that many people. He actually has a very low body count. But he was a skilled gambler, that part is true. I will grant you he did play faro more than he played poker, but since today poker is still played, and I'm not even sure what faro is exactly, I get why the media about Holliday has him primarily a poker player. Anyway, Kid goes over to the birdcage to keep an eye on George as she makes her debut. Oh, and when the owner introduces her, he name-drops Eddie Foy, which is cool and possibly factual. It was rumored that he played in Tombstone anyway. Fun fact, Eddie Foy Jr. played his own father in Frontier Marshal, a very loose retelling of the OK Corral story. I'm sorry, I just really like any and all Doc Holliday media. I've seen a lot of it. I've read some of it, it's a problem. George comes out in this black and yellow number and sings a fairly obnoxious song, but she's far more pleasant to listen to than other people. And by other people I do mean Claudine Lange. While watching her, Kid spies Sam Bacon, the man they've been looking for. At the end of her song, Bacon notices Kid staring down at him and takes off, the Kid hot on his heels. He makes it to his hotel room and starts packing when Kid busts through the door, gun drawn. He wants to know where the rifle he stole off Diego is, but Sam plays dumb. Kid presents him with the subpoena, but Sam knows that's no good in Arizona and they can't take him back by force because then his testimony won't be valid. Which, what? Why not? Surely this is what bounty hunters do all the time, take people back to face prosecution by force? Why would you go back willingly? Like when Joe was gonna hand over Hayes and Curry, would it not be allowed because he forced them to go with him? What? Anyway, apparently there's absolutely nothing Kid can do to make Sam go back to Texas to clear Big Mac's name. Back at the poker game, Wyatt comes in to watch what's going on. Hayes is still on that winning streak, and Doc is still seconds from death. Wyatt tells everyone that the game is on hold, and he wants a private word with Doc. Hayes bounces back into the hotel, thrilled with how much money he's won off Doc. Hayes, I love you, but I'm gonna have to smack you if you insult Doc one more time. Kid drops the bad news about Sam Bacon. He thinks Sam plans on blackmailing Big Mac. And suddenly there's another frantic knocking at their door. The boys get on their guard again. This time they even pull their guns. But it's just George again. And she runs into Hayes' arms. Again. They take her back to the marshal's office, and Wyatt is like, what now? She says all of her clothes have been stolen from her room. Wyatt's eating his supper and doesn't really want to deal with this, but eventually he gets up and goes with her to her room. When they open her wardrobe, all her clothes are back, but she swears that they were gone just a moment ago. He doesn't believe her. In fact, he threatens to lock her up if she, quote, pulls a stunt like this again, end quote. I don't like this, Wyatt. The next day, Kid confronts Deputy Bart about George. He wants to know why he's threatening her. Bart calls her a liar, but Kid says he's known her a long time and she's no liar. But whoopsie, he just gave himself away. They'd already told Wyatt that they just met Georgette. Can't have it both ways. That night, George is about to go on, and she's afraid to. Kid says if she wants their help, then she has to help them too. Kid, what happened to your sense of chivalry? She goes on again, and Sam is in the front row. I forgot there were 2 musical numbers in this episode. It just doesn't bother me like it normally does. Maybe because George is just so beautiful. As she's singing, she slides right up to Sam and sings directly to him. And he has this look on his face like, me? Are you sure you mean to be singing to me? It's both funny and sad. It kind of reminds me of Neville Brand's character on Laredo, where the other 2 roast him so often that I can't believe he didn't snap and kill them both. Anyway, after her number, she lets Sam walk her back to her room hand in hand. She lays it on real thick, and I know he's a murderer, but he's so freaking shy and awkward around her that it's kind of adorable. She tells him that she's going to be leaving Tombstone in a few days, and that'll be the end of the 2 of them. And he's like, there's a 2 of us? For real and for true? She bids him good night, but when she gets back to her room, Bart is there waiting for her. Back in the boys' room, Hayes is again bragging about how much money they have. $15,000. When guess what happens again? Yep, George knocks on the door, throws herself into Hayes' arms. She says she's had it and she's leaving tomorrow. Kid tells her she can't leave until they get Sam Bacon to go with her. I feel like you guys are not taking this whole threat on her life seriously. The next day, Kid follows Bart to the McIntyre ranch. He goes back to George and asks if she knows the couple. No luck. She's packing her stuff, determined to get on the stage that leaves today. Kid promises her that he'll stick to her like glue if she just stays around town a while longer. He tells her when Bart left the McIntyre ranch, he went to the bank and deposited $1,000. So Hayes, Kid, and George ride out to the ranch. Hayes knocks on the door. The couple answers, and Hayes wants to know what kind of a deal they have with Deputy Bart. They deny there's any kind of a deal, but then George walks up to them, and she does recognize them. They're a couple from Denver who worked at the express office. When the place got robbed, everyone assumed that they had been taken hostage and killed. This kind of has shades of Miracle of Santa Marta in it. Anyway, if it's not clear, they're the ones who robbed that express office. And they're like, we can explain! And Hayes is like, tell it to them, Marshall. Book 'em, kiddo. But actually, Hayes does get to pull his gun before McIntyre can get to his rifle in time, which is cool to see him do for a change, and it's also delivered a little more harshly than we'd see Pete do it, which is not better or worse, to be clear, it's just different. That night, in George's dressing room, Sam visits her, and she is really pouring it on about how hard she's fallen for Sam, and oh, what a tragedy that they must be parted because she's going back to Denver. Sam's like, well, as long as you don't have to go through Texas to get to Denver, then I'll go with you, my dearest love. In the hotel room, the 3 of them celebrate. Someone knocks on the door for a 4th time, and they're like, well, this time George is here, so what gives? Kid pulls her to his side to protect her before they open the door, and that's sweet and all, but where was this concern through the rest of the episode? It's just some of Wyatt's deputies, and Wyatt wants to see the boys privately. In his office, Wyatt is feeling friendly towards them since they uncovered the Bart McIntyre scheme. He tells them that Doc is his close friend and that he's dying, and when he goes, quote, I am going to feel a deep, deep loss, end quote. Aww, it's so sweet. But before Doc does pass, Wyatt is going to be his personal Make-A-Wish Foundation. He's seen how much money Hayes has won off of him, and he simply won't stand for that. And, of course, he has deduced that Smith and Jones are really Hayes and Curry. My God, everyone in the West knows who they really are. They're only not in prison because of the mercy of other people. Now, Wyatt isn't going to turn them in, under the condition that Hayes plays one more game of poker with Doc and loses the full $20,000 back to him, where everybody can see. And this is Mitchell's best scene in the episode. He stops acting bored out of his skull and gets truly threatening, but he does it all without raising his voice. It's just in his eyes and the firmness with which he delivers his lines. I love it. Well, what choice do the boys have? Hayes plays in the next game with Doc and loses. Naturally, he actually has a winning hand, but he folds. All under Wyatt's watchful gaze. I guess Kid couldn't bear to watch because he's not in the crowd. On the stagecoach, George and Sam are riding off together. The coach pulls to a stop and a huge posse comes down on Sam. The boys ride off soon after and join George on the stage while the sheriff takes Sam away. All's well that ends well. I love this episode. I am so glad it was Roger's second episode because it's such a fun one and it helps ease the transition because I get a lot of joy out of just seeing Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday be a part of it, and I get a lot of joy watching George too. I love her. I know some fans hate her, but I just can't. She's too much fun. And hot. Have I mentioned how hot she is? I don't really have a line of the episode, it's just George repeatedly coming to the boys' room and falling into Hayes' embrace. It's funny. And the episode goes to the kid. He's the one mostly driving the plot forward this week. Hayes is mostly just playing poker, and they end up with the same amount of money that they started with anyway. Next time on Alias, Smith & Jones, the boys meet the most obnoxious villain of the series. Pray for me. Research for this podcast comes mainly from the wonderful book Alias, Smith & Jones, The Story of Two Pretty Good Bad Men by Sandra K. Segala and Joanne M. Bagwell. Thanks for listening.